Hi all and welcome to the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name is Thomas Williams and that song goes out to Kim, the Trust, my admins, all the THI members and all other organic, non-dark people and beings around the world. Bar none. That's what we stand for here, about all working together. But sadly, we have people who are not interested in doing that. And we have bad people all around the world who wish to play games and destroy humanity and destroy the people and leave people, a lot of people, in a very bad state within themselves and around them. So tonight's show will be the From Russia with Love series and the Clowns in Panic shows will feature heavily tonight, and further proofs will all be unveiled in tonight's show, including other aspects of our show being validated as well. So strap in. This will be a fun but bumpy ride tonight. Enjoy it. Now, first off, I want to say a massive thank you to all in THI for the concerted push on the donations for the People's Club. And I'm glad and amazed in equal measure to report that the donations last month alone was a record. That beat the previous record for monthly donations set in January as well. Now, the donations for February alone was more than the entire years of donation for 2019. March is on course to smash February also, after an extraordinary donation that came in this week, and a special thank you to that person. You know who you are, but with internet children around, it's best not to mention your name. But thank you very much, and thanks to all who are on board with the People's Club. One of the things, we did part 2, ones and zeros, the last show I think. It's been a long week. And there was a comment on the chat, and every now and again I like to throw comments from other people in, and their input, because like I've said consistently, this show's not about me. And this person gets it. Not because of her praise for me or the show, because she took her own responsibility and actions. The trigger word was repeated in that last show, part 2, and she embraced it. And these are her words. I noticed a couple of posts, apologies, I don't know who posted them, as I was just having a look and had a little time, that mentioned the women's connection to the moon. Sometimes when I feel really happy in my heart, I say things really simply with much conviction at the same time. I refer to a comment I made about cutting the cord to the moon, and that I was going to celebrate that. I need to say I meant that. To me, intention and connection to it is everything, and it can be simple and uncomplicated. I turned away from all kinds of healing modalities I've learned or come across over many years, as they never spoke about this. They all called on people to call in this deity or this alleged master, or perform particular practices precisely so that a healing could work. They never allowed or guided people to go into their own inner wisdom or inner tech, or whatever you want to call it. So here I am now, with respect for the choices others make, truly training myself as much as I can to heal myself, transform my thinking, doing my shadow work. When I said I'm going to cut that cord, that is what I did. And I can say I've been experiencing tears of joy deeper connecting inspirations all in a few days. All of this was triggered by Thomas's part 2 of the Ones and Zeros show. So to the person who wanted some help for his girlfriend, the best thing you can do is guide her if she is willing to listen to Thomas's Must Listen To series and allow her to shift in her own rhythm. And to the person who offered some music as assistance in my cord cutting, thank you so much. I do use music a lot in my life as well, and sound, and it's all beneficial. Kudos to that person. You said it rather distinctly and eloquently. We will have maybe another show on part 2 and part 1 of that series coming up, where we perhaps cut it for good. People individually can go and do it, and this is what we've been teaching, about everyone being responsible for themselves. But there is a clear sign now that this show, and also the work I do along with the trust, is having a massive impact, as you can judge it by the levels of trolls that appear. And over recent times it has become a daily event, putting stresses and strains on our admins, and you really should support them and let them know that you all care for them. They go through a lot. The fact is, more people have been removed from our group due to poor behaviour, top and bottom line, and inappropriate reactions in the past 3 to 4 months than over the 3+ previous years that THI has been operating. Now, there are a few factors in this. We are winning the information war, along with a number of other alt media outlets. People are losing the plot big time, as the difference between those who have worked on themselves and those that haven't has become marked. And I want to thank all our members in these interactions, particularly in the past week, for not stooping to the levels of these type of people. Those people can't be helped. It boggles my mind why people would join a group if they don't like the owner and spend all day trashing it. I don't particularly care that they don't like me either, because these people are irrelevant. But is it much to ask that those people go and do something more productive for themselves and others, instead of going around just trashing others all day? These are testing times for us all on so many levels, and holding our nerve is the key. Bad people want to throw you off balance and disrupt your work and progress by putting doubts in your head, all designed to pull you back into the spiral dance of fear, lunacy and darkness. For the benefit who don't have Facebook, this next piece is from Kim. People only talk about people who are actually doing something. They do not discuss ones who are not moving. The most heavily attacked persons in the alt media are Thomas Williams and myself. Sure, you have spurts of blue chicken haters, also spurred by Shane, and a few others here and there, but for the most part it is against us. I have been peeking in and out of the alt media for nearly 10 years now, and I have never seen more hate campaigns than the ones against us. Why? Ask yourselves. Has Thomas Williams ever struck first against an alt media person publicly? He may give his opinion when asked, but not a slander campaign. So let's look at the facts. 1. The intel given by us is presently leaking out into the mainstream media. 2. The team works diligently on preventing catastrophe after catastrophe, which also eventually leaks out to the mainstream media, including the birth of a new star that was announced here first. 3. The team works day and night to bypass system after system set up by the Black Sun and Rothschilds. And don't you think we would all like a paycheck too? Projects after projects with amazing new technology cures for all types of disease, and for every day our tests only make it through the gauntlet so far. Many people die of starvation, much more than the fake coronavirus. Fake being the coverage of it. And Kim wonders whether they are selling more Mexican beer these days. Many people die of cancer, cystic fibrosis and many other man-made diseases. How hard do you think it is for us to sleep or do anything but work? Why? Because we have a moral obligation, and all of this rests on us, at least in the beginning, before the large funds. So I could care less about the hate campaign coming from self-proclaimed Rothschild coven members, or pedophiles, or Nazi Black Sun von Reitz. Matter of fact, I thank them. Why? Because if these two murderous covens are sending their shills into alt media after us, and mostly only us, then that means we, all here at THI, the People's Club, are the doers. And may God, Source, bless them the way they have blessed us. Peace, strength and love to all. We will prevail. Oftentimes I wake up with a song that comes to mind. This was one from the other day, and to my friend Thomas, who has helped the team more than you know, has been a friend to me through all the attacks, not Facebook banter people who hide behind a computer, but real physical attacks, spiritual attacks and personal attacks, who is always willing to lend an ear to anyone in need, not just me, and is sharing of his time for hours on end each week, teaching us and helping us grow. So we are ready for this new beginning we are experiencing now. We love you all. Let the haters hate and stay strong. Right, with that out the way, let's crack on with the show. And it's like a show within a show within a show. Like I said, there's large elements of proof of the From Russia With Love, and also Clowns in Panic, particularly in this up and coming part before the next music break. And an example of losing a narrative is this report that came out of the UN this week. The usual divide and conquer. And their report has found at least 90% of men and women hold some sort of bias against females. Really. We the People fact checker declares this as bogus and also fake news. And in a new survey, We the People find that the UN are 90% plus a front for money launderers, pedophiles, child traffickers, warmongers and also fake, as they have no sovereignty anymore to decide anything. Right, let's get into another piece. This is connected to the coronavirus. and the shenanigans to do with that. Charles Libra, born to. The chair of Harvard University Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology has been arrested and criminally charged with making false, fictitious and fraudulent statements to the US Defense Department about his ties to a Chinese government program. And bear in mind, it's not President Xi, it's tied to a lot of Chinese government, like our government, is run by deep state clans, to recruit foreign scientists and researchers. All very OSS, that to me. And the Justice Department says Libra lied about his contact with the Chinese program known as the 1,000 Talents Plan. Now, the US ran a similar talent plan, as Randy Morgans will attest to, that involves profiling and dragging students out for nefarious plans, which the US had previously flagged as a serious intelligence concern. And he's also accused of lying about a lucrative contract he signed with China's Wuhan University of Technology. Oh my. Dot connecting. In an affidavit unsealed on Tuesday, the FBI, the real FBI, Special Agent Robert Plum, said Libra, who led a Harvard research group focusing on nanoscience, had established a research lab at the Wuhan University, apparently unbeknownst to Harvard. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Harvard are also involved in with the CIA and the Five Eyes groups, as are Yale, etc. And they're also on the control document, as well as Skull and Bones. In response to the charges against Libra, Harvard said in a statement, the charges brought by the US government against Professor Libra were extremely serious, and Harvard is cooperating with federal authorities, including the National Institutes of Health, and is initiating its own review of the alleged misconduct. Libra has been placed on indefinite administrative leave. Now, the arrangements between Libra and the Chinese institution spanned significant periods of time between at least 2012, which is significant, and also 2017, according to the affidavit. And it says the deal called for Libra to be paid up to $50,000 a month, in addition to $150,000 per year for living and personal expenses. Now, Libra was also awarded more than $1.5 million by WUT, Wuhan Technology, and the Chinese government to establish a research lab and conduct research at Wuhan Technologies. I'm sure I don't need to connect the dots for you on that. All our members are far more knowledgeable and up to date than many others. Connect the dots, it's all there. Here's another dot connector. Some 452 Australian dollars, which is about 300,000 US dollars, has been raised, that's probably more now, as part of a campaign to send a 9-year-old Australian boy to Disneyland after a video of his deep distress over being bullied went viral. Uraka Bales, oh my, that's twice that names cropped up this week, posted the clip of her son, Quaden, crying after he was targeted at school allegedly for his dwarfism. And they said, this is what bullying does, she says in the video, in which her son also says he wants to end his life. All very sad. But this happens every single day in every single school. What it doesn't happen is it doesn't go right across the media, right across the world, and creates funds in excess of $300,000. Now, the only problem is that young Mr. Bales is a paid actor. Oops. And is being promoted by Australian celebrities like Hugh Jackman, or Hugh Jackass, if you ask me. And it's pure desperation for raping the public again with their pity party pleas. And the money should be confiscated and given to the people of Australia who suffered damages due to the fake fires that they started recently. You know, I admire people chipping in to a good cause, but stop and think first before jumping into anything resembling a charity that goes viral. It is viral because the clowns are pushing the algorithms to siphon funds into their banks and keep the clowns going. That kid won't see any of that money. Yes, he might go to Disney. That's it. The rest of it is going to get siphoned off into their banks. Why? Because they've got no funds left. Simple. Washington and Taliban movement signed a deal that lays out conditions for a withdrawal of US and NATO troops. If you believe the latter, you'll believe anything. From Afghanistan. The agreement was signed by US peace envoy for Afghanistan, Zalmay Khalilzad, and one of the Taliban's senior leaders, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, in Qatar's capital, Doha, on a week last Saturday, I think it was. And the deal will see Washington and its allies withdrawing their troops from 5 bases in Afghanistan within the next 135 days. And the remaining American soldiers will leave the country in 14 months if the Taliban fulfills its commitments. Now, the document lays the groundwork for future negotiations between the Taliban and the Afghan government aimed at bringing a lasting peace to the country. And the US has agreed to facilitate the talks and lift sanctions from Taliban members by August, provided the negotiations commence as planned. Now, the Taliban leader, Akhundzada, called on all fighters to honour and abide by the agreement, and the US and Afghan government said earlier that the peace agreement will include guarantees that Afghan territory will not be used by terrorist groups to target the US and its allies. And also Washington and Kabul agreed on a prisoner exchange with the Taliban by March 10th, vowing to release up to 5,000 and 1,000 people respectively. Now, predictably, the ceasefire didn't last long, as certain mercenaries and agency-led groups do not want a ceasefire in that region. Why? They make too much money off poppy fields is why. Go and research it yourself. Check out the production of the poppy fields just prior to America going into Afghanistan and what happened within 6 months after it. The Department of Homeland Security whistleblower who exposed Barack Obama and his wrongdoing in his administration has been found dead from a gunshot wound in California. All too typical and predictable. Now, the Department of Homeland Security whistleblower Philip Haney was found dead on Friday night, and he is the man who came forward and exposed how political correctness was hurting the war on terror under Obama. And from law enforcement today, we received reports that Philip Haney, who was on the Obama administration, had been found dead, and they had not received independent confirmation from the Sheriff's Department but sources within law enforcement have verified there is a death investigation underway. And we're on to New York. Federal agents and New York police detectives raided the Manhattan headquarters of the fashion company, which was run by a Canadian fashion executive, on Tuesday, seeking evidence in a sex trafficking investigation. What you're going to find is, and we may have a little bit more evidence later, is Nexium, who are also in Canada, remember, and a few others. These are all connected, Epstein, etc., etc. And according to two law enforcement officials who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss an ongoing investigation, the executive Peter Nygaard, who is 78, has been under investigation for at least 5 months. How long ago was Epstein? By a joint child exploitation task force of the FBI and the New York Police Department in an inquiry overseen by the U.S. Attorney's Office based in Manhattan. At least 4 women who have accused Mr. Nygaard in a recent lawsuit of sexually assaulting them when they were just 14 and 15 years of age in the Bahamas have also met with the task force, and that lawsuit was filed this month. Now, on Sunday, the New York Times detailed how a fight with his wealthy neighbour led to the lawsuit, and also showed a pattern of complaints about sexual misconduct by Mr. Nygaard stretching back 40 years. How long? 40 years of allegations and nothing's been done. Well, we'll know why, and maybe a bit more reasons why later. So this is the first on New York issues being cleaned up, and it won't be the last tonight either. On our February the 6th show, I think it was, I called for Trump and the team to fight back, not just defend against liars and deceivers. And maybe these next 2 pieces reveals the beginning of the fight back. Donald Trump re-election campaign said on Wednesday it was filing a libel lawsuit accusing the New York Times of intentionally publishing a false opinion article that suggested Russia and the campaign had an overarching deal in the 2016 US election. In an escalation of the Republican president's long-running battle with the news media, campaign officials said the lawsuit was being filed in a state court in New York. Asked about the suit at a White House news conference later on Wednesday, Trump said the New York Times had got a lot wrong over the last number of years. Donald Trump's 2020 campaign have now filed another lawsuit and libel suit against the Washington Post for millions of dollars, accusing the newspaper of publishing false and defamatory statements about alleged collusion with Russia. Remember, I think it was in the last normal show, we also spoke about Maddox, is it? Whatever her name is, or he is, or she is, or whatever. Anyway, she was another one that got a lawsuit. And the lawsuit, which was filed in the US District Court in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, highlights 2 articles published by the Washington Post in 2019 linking Trump's team to alleged foreign interference in the 2016 elections. And the complaint, which was seen by the news outlet, alleges that the Post was well aware, quote unquote, that the statements were false, but published them anyway for the international purpose of hurting Trump's campaign. And the articles were part of the newspaper's systematic pattern of bias against Trump, it said. Now, one of the articles published on June the 13th stated that the special counsel Robert Mueller's extensive investigation into alleged collusion concluded that Trump's campaign tried to conspire with a sweeping and systematic attack by Russia during that election. It's all coming down now. Subintel. And here's more lawsuits. The Attorney General of the U.S. state of New Mexico is suing Go Ogle, accusing the company of illegally collecting the personal data of school children. Oops. Like I said, it's all connected, far more than you realise. The tech giant is alleged to have collected data on which websites pupils visited, their passwords, their videos were watched, contact lists and other information. The data was allegedly gathered from Go Ogle's Chromebook, Adrenal Chromebook laptops and G Suite for Education program. Now, Go Ogle disputes the claims, as they are liars, that's why, with a spokesman calling it factually wrong. I don't think so. We already have the evidence. Now, Go Ogle's Chromebooks and the G Suite for Education, which includes Gmail, Calendar, Drive, Docs and others, are offered for free to more than 60% of students in New Mexico, according to the lawsuit. This is exactly the same as remember they were giving the free phones out to black people because they couldn't afford them. And people thought, oh, what a lovely gesture. No, 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 and no. These people never give anything for free. If they give you something for free, it is a seducement to do damage to you. That's how it works. An Attorney General Hector Balderas said Go Ogle had failed to get parental consent from children under the age of 13 and collected their data for commercial purposes in violation of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Last year, Go Ogle reached a $170 million settlement with the Federal Trade Commission over allegations that it illegally harvested personal data from children on YouTube. Like I said, they're all connected. YouTube's another one. Ancestry.com and 23andMe. It's all part of the same network. And so we are back to Russia again. Smack my ruddy head. Like night follows day. Here we go again. US intelligence agencies, oh dear, has warned that Russia is attempting to help President Donald Trump get re-elected in November of this year. This will be the same US intelligence agencies who gave fake news and reports 4 years ago. Oh dear. They're not very original, are they? And the comments were said to have come in a closed-door briefing to the US House Intelligence Committee on the 13th of February. Mr. Trump sacked his acting intelligence chief, Joseph Maguire, a week after that meeting. Not a coincidence. And reacting to the reports, President Trump said they were another misinformation campaign and hoax launched by his Democratic opponents. Now, the New York Times reported that Mr. Trump was particularly angry that Adam Schiff for Brains, the Democrat who led the impeachment proceedings against him, was at the briefing. Of course they are. And 3 days later, knowing full well the majority of Americans have a shorter attention span than most, out comes this new report. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence pushed back on Monday on reports that a senior intelligence official told lawmakers that the Russian government was actively aiding President Trump's election, although it did not specify what the official did say at a classified, now contentious briefing before the House Intelligence Committee on February the 13th. So they're arranging subcommittees, this is what this is telling you, they're arranging subcommittees to basically debrief everyone on what to say in these meetings. That's what that's stating. And during the February 13th briefing, the intelligence community did not state that Russia is aiding the re-election of President Trump. Well, there you have it. The second story hardly got any mention. The first one was splashed all over the news. So that's what people believe, you see. I told you they were losing the narrative. And here's Clowns in Panic and From Russia with Love, all wrapped into one in these next few pieces. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has asked the US for a, quote, clear explanation, unquote, after they made claims the CIA has been hacking targets in China for at least 11 years. 11. Try 60 or 70. Maybe even going back further with the OSS. And the allegations were made by Qihu, a well-known cybersecurity firm based in Beijing. And the company said it had found evidence in malware, suggesting that the CIA had targeted airlines, petrol companies, or gas companies as you would say in America, and also government agencies. Qihu said it had analysed malicious code and found similarities between it and information about alleged CIA hacking tools, which was published 3 years ago. Now, among other alleged targets of the hacking campaign were internet firms, scientific institutions, hello, Wuhan, and also energy companies. And they said, the spokesman said, we speculate that in the past 11 years of infiltration attacks, the CIA may have already grasped the most classified business information of China, even of many other countries in the world. Of course they did. This is what we've been saying in From Russia with Love and also Clowns in Panic. It was CIA and their contractors who laid all the cables right around the world. Like the banking, they had back doors into every single one. Indian authorities are investigating claims that dozens of women were forced to have gynecological tests to prove their fitness for work. The women, trainee government clerks in the city of Surat in Gujarat, say they were also checked for pregnancy. And an official report on all these alleged incidents was expected within the next 15 days. Now, the women alleged that they were forced to stand naked in a room together in groups of 10 during invasive finger tests, which were conducted by female doctors, like the TSA then. And it comes days after college students living in a Gujarat hostel said they were forced to remove their underwear to prove they were not menstruating. Now, India's uncomfortable relationship with female periods is back in the headlines. College students living in a hostel in the western Indian state, as just mentioned, have complained that they were made to strip and show their underwear to female teachers to prove that they were not menstruating. And the 68 young women were pulled out of classrooms and taken to the toilet, where they were asked to individually remove their knickers for inspection. This took place in the city of Bhuj, B-H-U-J, and the young women are undergraduate students at Sri Sahajanand Girls Institute, which is run by the Swaminarayan sect, another sect, and who are a wealthy, no surprise, and conservative Hindu religious group, no surprise further. They said a hostel official had complained to the college principal on Monday that some of the students were breaking rules menstruating women are supposed to follow. Really? And according to these rules, women are barred from entering the temple and the kitchen and are not allowed to touch other students during their periods. At meal times, they have to sit away from others and they have to clean their own dishes, and in the classroom they are expected to sit on the last bench. Unreal. Spiritual enlightenment of India? My arse it is. And it's not just India either. The treatment of women from India to Saudi Arabia is beyond disgusting in this day and age. Beyond discussion. All done by weak men. Because anyone who controls another does so out of weakness, not strength. And what this proves is the From Russia with Love series again, with their fake spiritual bullshittery of Shiva, Buddha, Tantric and Jainism clearly has an impact on their thinking. That ascribes to treating women in this fashion is somehow okay. Well, it's not. The Kali Ma lives on under the banner of Indian religious culture to this day. And we're back to New York and clearing paths again. The Catholic Diocese of Buffalo, which is facing nearly 250 lawsuits involving clergy sexual abuse, has now declared bankruptcy. Aside from the obvious financial implications, the diocese's former Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing means that many of the victims of clergy sexual abuse may not anytime soon get the answers that they have long been hidden in secret diocesan archives regarding pedophile priests. Well, if they can't pay it, then the Vatican has to pay it. It's that simple. They're all under the same banner. All psychopaths, all evil. But there is still a chance that those hidden files could be forced as part of a bankruptcy settlement, as has happened in other dioceses. Because the cases will soon be shifted from a state civil court to US bankruptcy court, survivors of clergy sexual abuse are likely to receive compensation, though it is unclear how much per case the diocese will be required to pay out. Now, according to bankruptcy documents filed in federal court, the Buffalo Diocese is facing between $50 million and $100 million in estimated liability. It means the church could be forced to sell properties and make appeals for more money from parishioners. That will be a no. That will be a no. Stop giving money to these pedophiles. And I don't think, well, my church doesn't do it. Also bollocks. They're all at it. I'm sorry, but they are. Stop giving them your money. But it also paves the way for the Catholic Church in Western New York to, after its debts are paid off, emerge from the crisis with its mission and services still intact. That would be a no also. Because anyone that goes back there is guilty as they are. I'm sorry, but that's the facts. And the dramatic move comes after the Diocese of Rochester became the first Roman Catholic diocese in New York State to file for bankruptcy on September the 12th. They shouldn't be allowed to get away with it. And perhaps Mr. Trump and the team, who I know listen to this, needs to step in and block the bankruptcies, take everything off them and give it back to the people who have suffered. Any outstanding debts, send the bill directly to the Vatican. Make them sell their stuff as well. It is no doubt one result of the Child Victims Act, which was passed in January of 2019 and allows victims of child sexual abuse in all institutions, not only the Catholic Church, a 1-year window period in which they can sue the institutions to prove they were responsible for the abuse. That window should be left open, in my opinion. And to date, more than 300 Child Victims Act lawsuits have been filed in Western New York alone. Den of iniquity, that place. It seems the old Aryan Slavs are now rising up and fighting back, which is nice to hear. And this report comes from one of our members that describes protests are ongoing since before Christmas, and it has started about a controversial law about religious freedom. However, as Thomas Williams identified the phenomenon, it's not about the church, it is about denying the majority of ethnic Serbs making new quasi-country and ultimately the destruction of a nation, in this case the Serbian people. One cannot help but wonder why are Serbs such a thorn in the Western eye. It's not necessarily the Western eye, but I get your point. This is one city in Montenegro, and she showed pictures of it, and it was packed of people protesting. Serbs all over the world are protesting, she said. And she said, just for clarification purposes, the amount of people that are protesting would be equivalent to 1/3 of the UK being out on the streets and protesting. Imagine if 20 million people come out at once, and they are numbering around 250,000 out of a 700,000 population. And whilst all those protests were going on, there was not a single incident of violence or disorder. Kudos to them. The cryptocurrency market needs to improve how it secures digital assets for the $245 billion industry to keep growing, according to the company KPMG. We'll hear more on them shortly. At least 9.8 billion, listen closely, at least 9.8 billion in digital assets have been stolen by hackers since 2017 because of lax security or poorly written code. And the accounting firm wrote this in a report that was released on Monday. Adoption of cryptocurrencies such as shitcoin and Ether, fresh air tokens, among institutional investors has led to a competition for a place in portfolios, which makes safeguarding the fresh air tokens more important than ever, according to KPMG. What stupid people who buy these fresh air tokens is and don't understand. The system for running the cryptos is designed to steal them. Oops. 100% fact. The whole thing is ran by rogue elements from the CIA and the NSA, who were the two organizations that actually created the cryptos, taken over by Rothschilds-based companies like KPMG as the new harvesting centre. Stop buying them. And anyone selling or advertising them at this point are frauds, no exceptions. Sorry, but you people are keeping these clowns afloat. Cryptos are all they have left to control. That's it. Talking of crypto, here comes Facebook. Is now reportedly rethinking its plans for its own digital currency after resistance from regulators. It is now considering a system with digital versions of established currencies, including the dollar and the euro, halfway measures. That won't work either. The Libra Association, which Facebook founded to create the currency, will continue its work, it said, and the plan will include Libra, the company said in response. And the social network's digital, you already know what that means now, wallet is now expected to launch this autumn. Yeah, right. Several months later than initially planned, according to the reports. Of early reports that it might drop Libra itself, the firm said Facebook remains fully committed to the project and announced in June last year that it would launch the Libra digital currency with a goal of making payments easier and cheaper. No. And its partners in the Libra Association include Lyft, Spotify, Shopify, but several other high-profile members such as Visa left after the idea was criticised by the authorities. Dante Disparte, the head of policy and communication at Libra, said the Libra Association has not altered its goal of building a regulatory compliant, nice wording, global payment network. What happens if you don't comply? Delete. I'm telling you, it's not funny. That's exactly what they're going to do. Or so they think. And the basic design principles that support that goal have not changed, nor has the potential for this network to foster, another nice word they're using there, future innovation. Now, in October, the world's biggest economies warned cryptocurrencies, such as Libra, pose a risk to the global financial system. France has said it threatens the monetary sovereignty of governments. Listen to that closely. It threatens the monetary sovereignty of governments. That's what decentralization means. It tells you on the Bitcoin. And others have warned it could be abused for money laundering, oh my, and other nefarious purposes. Of course, it's the same people that's doing it with that did it with the currencies is why. Now, what I can say is a load of banks at high levels are not supporting this, as they realise what we said in the Clowns in Panic show is now unveiling. They will all be replaced in what they call decentralising. Cryptos will ultimately put millions of people out of work and create a society wholly dependent on a few psychopaths who have shown they care nothing for us, but will care less for those they used previously, called the minions. Final two pieces before a music break. Files discovered in Argentina have revealed the names of 12,000 Nazis, which is not German, it means National Zionism, who lived there in the 1930s, not during the war, 1930s, and many had Swiss bank accounts, researchers say. The US-based Simon Wiesenthal Center, famous for tracking down Nazis when he's connected to them, has asked Credit Suisse to identify the dormant bank accounts. We believe that these long dormant accounts hold monies looted from Jewish victims, the centre says, and the papers were found in a storeroom at a former Nazi headquarters in Buenos Aires. This is no different to the Rothschilds and that mental institution trust they were searching for last month. It's no different at all. Nazi Germany, it says in the article. No, it wasn't Nazi Germany. It's Nazi Zionism, and it's global, not just Germany. Began seizing Jewish property after enacting racist laws in 1935, and a colossal amount was stolen during the Holocaust in the 1940s. Much of that wealth was transferred to secret Swiss bank accounts. Now, in a letter to Credit Suisse Vice President Christian Kung, the Simon Wiesenthal Centre says, "We are aware that you already have claimants as alleged heirs of Nazis in the list." And in a statement on its website, the Centre says that many of the Nazis listed in the Argentinian files contributed to one or more bank accounts in the Schweizerische Credit Anstalt, which later became the Credit Suisse Bank. It's a bit like Deutsche Bank. That was a Nazi bank as well. Or the SS Bank. And in 1930 through 1938, Argentina had pro-Nazi military regimes led by President Jose Felix Uriburu, nicknamed Von Pepe. So the world is told that the Nazis was the 1940s, and here we are in Argentina. And where did the Nazis flee after the war, including Hitler? Argentina, it's all there. And also his successor, Agustin Pedro Justo, was also involved in it. Of course he was. So that's the story that the media have put out. What I'm saying is, ignore the narrative behind this piece. Why? Because this is faction fighting between the Rothschilds and the Black Sun groups over money they stole off the people. They did. And stole not just from Jewish people either. Oh no. And this is part of the guilt program that has been ran on the Western world people for the last 75 years by the likes of Wiesenthal and the other snakes out of New York and Israel Holocaust museums that are siphoning and laundering vast sums of money whilst their own peoples are enduring severe hardship and poverty. Fact. Later in that article, it says, the clock ticks on the Swiss banking system, the article said. Who owns them banks? Rothschilds. What is the Rothschild family? Jewish. Who stole off all the Jewish people? Rothschilds. Who refused to safely remove the Jewish people out of the camps as was arranged by Adolf Hitler, Churchill and Begin in 1942? The Rothschilds. This is Black Sun information, because the Black Sun and the Rothschilds are fighting each other. We're going to get a lot of disclosures out of this. But always remember, the likes of the Wiesenthals are putting themselves up as pro-people. No, they're not. Just different part of a bad guy group. Final piece before the music break. Our show warned in January of high-profile firings and also said the fall or collapse of the old system could happen in February. Now, some parts of that have been unveiled and some parts haven't yet. But here is a list of CEOs that have gone in the past month alone. Disney, MasterCard, Bayer, which is Rothschild, Victoria's Secret, Hulu, Uber Eats, Salesforce, IBM, or as it's now known as IWASM, LinkedIn, Barclays, and MGM Resorts, which is also Disney. We'll be back with the intel. Right. Don't know what happened to that. That was cut short rather quickly. Everyone hear me okay? Quick, before we get into the intel. Right, let's go ahead. The intel coming in on the markets and coronavirus. Let's just say there are ongoing operations to stop it. The coronavirus, like I said last week, is a global attempt to control what people focus on and talk about and create fear. That's the top and bottom line of it. Meanwhile, the alt media disclosures, and you've just heard a whole heap of them in the first hour or so, proliferate wildly, and it's desperation tactics to control the narrative. We will do a special show at short notice for any major events or warnings if need be, but please, no fear. The sole reason for all of this nonsense and alt-media clownery is because there are many positive things happening now, some of which stem out of our show and also my other work with Kim and the Trust. Over the past week, more last week and then this one, the clowns using servers out of New Zealand under the cover of the coronavirus, which then made the markets drop. They dropped because they were siphoning out of the stock markets to the tune of $1.87 trillion. They were planning on buying up the whole of America and its resources and providing the US government with the budget. This weekend brought the return actions for their consequences, and the money and the servers went into dust to all intents and purposes. The 1.87 trillion was taken back off the clowns, by the way, by Kim. But like their previous heist last time, that money cannot be put back into the system as it has no allocation numbers. So now the world financial system is short of another $1.87 trillion. Smart move that, jackasses. Not. The server people in New Zealand went into a panic and called the person known as the commander and told them that the servers were down, and the commander then told them to just fix it. And the reply was, but this will take months, many months. And panic ensued ever since, and a major issue and concern on Sunday was that the markets and banks will suffer badly this week. The name of the commander of that New Zealand base, Barack Obama. As of Sunday again, the clowns were planning to shut down the whole of the Western banking, finance and markets from Monday as a cover-up of their crimes, because the 1.87 trillion is now permanently gone and cannot be put back. Next news item will be brief, for a reason. There were large explosions in the tunnels under a certain facility in Virginia this week as part of the clean-up operation that is ongoing currently. And that is all I'm saying. Next, intel will be disturbing. The company called KPMG, America's largest contractor with global headquarters in Holland, but a Swiss corporation, officially. The KPMG is a Rothschild's endeavour with heavy ties to the Clintons in America. This also explains why the FBI got calls from several high-level Democratic senators in the United States telling them to stop the operations and investigations into David Rea and the Team Bubba. Think George Nader. Think Clintons. For those new to this is not some petty internet tiff, far from it. This involves serious high-level crimes and criminals, of which our show has revealed many of them. Not just them, but global criminals. That is having a massive effect. KPMG also had servers in Lithuania, which just happens to be the same servers where David Rea and his sidekick or duplicate Rea, known as Barry Bigham, ran the child porn and child trafficking from. The Lithuanian servers are protected by KPMG, National Cyber Forensics and Training Alliance. The NYC branch, New York, of KPMG has IT persons from every major bank in America plus the FBI, and it may well turn out that it was this group who were doing the final blocking of all the funds recently. I can tell you over the last couple of months, which is why the increase in the trolls, that Kim and I have been working on the transfer of the funds, and it went very, very close to delivering. Real close. And we kept hitting one last hurdle. In the past, there were nearly 40,000 hurdles. We have now whittled it down to just one. This is why Shane and others went on the attack. They and their handlers know we are about to end their control of this world. 1 cent spent out of the trust and it's game over. In the same building, KPMG, as other Clinton organisations in NYC, which brings in Citadel and the Vice Group, WEISS, who blocked the American and Puerto Rican disaster relief funds from the trust to the tune of $105 billion. They run cyber out of that office for the entire banking network in America, and all are tied to the Team Bubba group. We have received a report this past week, and I will reveal certain details for this show. The joint, and I'll repeat again, the joint DNC and the paedophile, child torture and child mutilation supporting agents in the copy and paste crew known as THI Team Bubba, which for those new is nothing to do with us, and is nothing more than a lower level hate club with some very high profile criminals and agents within it. These people doth protest too much they are not involved, while stupid enough to CC themselves on the same email as David Rea. Oops. David Rea and also the pseudonym of Barry Bigham both have emails with the misnomer of fraud fighters and the whistleblower site. I, and now we, have email evidence of exchanges between David Rea and Barry Bigham. Like I said, they protest too much of not being involved with Rea when evidence shows to the contrary. They are even that stupid as to admitting that they were wiretapping our phones and fraudulently creating fake emails in other people's names. Plus, they admitted blocking 2 African governments from working with us for the benefit of their people, plus 7 other brokers. Not to mention their fake banner suggesting they were connected to the FBI via some private NGO person, not FBI, named Brad Carpenter. He does not work for the FBI. And their banner has been collected as evidence as impersonating a federal officer, which in this case is a felony that all in that group are complicit of. a large fine and 3 years in prison for pushing that narrative. It's a serious offence. Raya, Bigham, Large and Near Tain are the main protagonists on that front. Do not bother jumping ship like rats to hide your participation. All names who were a part of that group at any given time have all been collected and documented. So thanks for the evidence, chaps. You will be hearing from us and the proper authorities in due time. The Team Bubba group are protected by KPMG and high-level US senators that are all connected to the DNC, who are on David Raya's pedophile client list, and rogue elements within the FBI and the CIA covering up the DNC and this group's crimes. This group is not separate to the DNC. They are one and the same network. Like I said, they're all connected. George Nader of DNC campaign donations fame was indicted and is also accused of transporting a 14-year-old Eastern European boy to the United States for sex as far back as the year 2000, who has repeatedly acted as an unofficial liaison between Washington officials and the United Arab Emirates and also Saudi Arabia, and as a lobbyist for a private security firm, Blackwater, and is a consultant to Eric Prince. Remember this show mentioning earlier about Team Bubba being connected to Eric Prince? They even have in their group Tear Joyce, who along with Stephen Kelly from Truth Cat Radio, who is both CIA and NSA, and he says he's ex of both. I beg to differ, there's no such thing as ex-CIA. See Robert David Steele for that example. Joyce and Kelly tried to pin sexual crimes and links to the DNC on Randy Morgan's. You see, they point fingers at others of crimes that they are related to themselves, be it directly or indirectly. Another one who popped up on the radar, and it is in their group, who went missing but returned around the same time as the Ukrainian fake impeachment. Lily Kolosova, better known as Lily Earthling, lesser known as Born in the Ukraine, and also a spy. Coincidence? You decide. That group and their servers in Lithuania is not just involved in sexual abuse of the children, but trading them as well. But that is not the worst aspects. This is high-level ritual stuff of both torture and mutilation of children, as was relayed to me by those who viewed the full evidence off their server in the past month. All material and evidence has been collected and stored where it is not accessible or can be deleted or moved. When the DNC House of Cards collapses, and it will, and we have unbiased and uncorrupted officials in the enforcement groups in this country, all of you will be dealt with. Until then, the Russian authorities will be dealing with it as it's from one of Russia's original landmasses. All in that group have been warned several times, and you are an accessory to the crimes against children. Deborah Heap Cale, Richard Hobbs, Andrew Simmons, Brian D. Ridgway, Mark Power, Brady Goddard, Randall Kaiser, Shane Bales. All people who jumped out of our group into theirs are now considered accessories to serious crimes against children. You were all warned, and you all chose to ignore it. It makes you as complicit as Rhea and Barry Bigham, who may be one and the same person, given their server links are connected. As of Tuesday, their other website of whistleblowers was closed down and contents collected. The whistleblowers info site of Team Bubba has been blocked, and they are currently under investigation by Russian authorities for child pornography, sex trafficking of young children from Eastern Europe. Expect other sites connected to them and all their other members' websites and blogs to be investigated as part of a wider research. Deleting will not work. We have all of your incriminating comments already stored, whilst you copied and pasted for fake. We did it for real. Absolutely sickening when I heard the details of the server. You really can't comprehend that level of darkness and evil. The op-eds, or certainly the first part anyway, will be more about what is the trust, what is the People's Club. Because certain people are having certain doubts. But for those who are questioning, the People's Club is nothing to do with Kim or the trust. The $1 or more program is nothing to do with Kim or the trust either. Both were my creations or ideas, although Kim did help with the setting up and the paperwork to creating the People's Club. Kim is not involved in the People's Club at all. The People's Club is about us all looking after ourselves and stepping forward in service to others, not the self. Now, Kim has said she will provide project funds for the People's Club and also to create change and other people doing lead projects around the world. And that is the top and bottom line of her input into the People's Club. Kim works for the trust, the same trust that not one of these miscreants bothered to ask a single question about or demand certain proofs of the previous trustee. Not a single question. Kim to date, despite having worked for the trust for 7 years, has received no pay for doing so. It's a funny scam, that. Kim is not obligated or here to provide proof to anybody. She's not selling anything. What is there to sell? It is a private establishment that is actually not connected to any country, and that is why previously it was called the Unknown Country. And I will ask the question again so people grasp it. What is Kim selling? If the trust closes its doors for the next 495 years, which it can do, What does that change for you? If you say it changes everything, then you haven't gone into thinking and acting different, have you? Perhaps you saw it as another handout program, something you didn't have to participate in too much. The trust and its workings in real terms is nothing to do with handing out pieces of paper with numbers on. Money might be your God, but it's certainly not Kim or I's. Kim, 7 years, no pay. Me, 4 years, no pay. And yet, we are scammers. I would ask all who listen to this, would you work on something for 4 to 7 years with no pay? Or whilst taking a barrage of abuse? Whilst all your friends, family and love partners are taken away from you in the same process, would you do it? I and a few others have built our own trust in essence, the People's Trust, called the People's Club. And we have gone with the $1 or more recently. Which has more value for and by the people? One where all contribute and participate, or the one where people hold their hand out? So, Kim is not selling anything. And yet is asked for proof of selling nothing. These people actually understand what they're saying. Evidence points to no, they don't. Do any of those people ask any other company to provide details of their proof, their financials, who they are sleeping with? Are they a scammer? Are they homeless? Or are they in poverty? No. People don't even question their own doctors whether they are expert enough to treat them. Never mind question other establishments. And therein lies the problem, does it not? As I said earlier, I'm humbled at the donations received into the People's Club, and it will go to good causes, even if those good causes at the time of donating turn out to be a lot more nasty than previously thought, like Madeline Niatane and Shane Bales. Both of them have received money from the People's Club and yet now call it a scam. So in essence, as Shane and Madeline have received financial gain from the People's Club, and I haven't, and they label it a scam, it is they who are the scammers, as they've received funds from the alleged scam. Oops. Like I said, these people do not think before they speak. Scam, an illegal plan for making money. And I've made zero. In fact, I've not made zero. I've actually contributed hundreds of dollars to it. A quick profit. Oops, that's not happening either. One that involves tricking people. Who's tricking who here? The person who spends hours per week running it for no compensation, or the ones who received money out of it and then call it a scam? We will carry on doing the right things and helping and supporting each other. These lowlifes who attack do so out of pure envy and their own bitterness, because they are takers, not givers, darkness, not light, service to self, as in soul, tribe, sanctuary. How ironic that is. STS, service to self, not service to others. Even our other two directors will admit that 99% of the work of the TPC is all done by me. And I will continue, like the previous 3.5 years, to not take a penny out of the People's Club until the larger funds come out. My funds comes from my Patreon, which is, listen closely now, voluntary. But apparently now a voluntary donation is now considered a scam by some. And yet no one else who has a Patreon apparently is a scammer. Just me. Even if those same said accusers have Patreons themselves. It's funny that, isn't it? So Kim is nothing to do with the People's Club and has not received anything from it in terms of financial support. None. The TPC is my company and my responsibility along with my two directors, neither of which have received any funds or compensation out of it either. Yes, many of you have been disappointed in this past week by Shane the Ruiner's actions. It is sad for all to see someone to fall that far. But unbeknown to many, as I have kept quiet, Shane has done this to me privately several times for the last 4 years. Made nasty and false allegations, only to backtrack on all of them bar one, which is his envy and nastiness towards Kim. And I'm sorry. Sorry this time will not wash Shane. It just will not wash. Shane is the latest in a long line of agency-based puppets, sent out like a child's wind-up toy to rake mud. Lots of mud thrown in a desperate hope that something sticks. But nothing sticks against people operating in the truth anymore. And it's a desperate act by the clowns to disrupt the work we are doing and have done. All other attempts have failed, and this one did also. He, like those that went before him, have done untold things to both friends and family of both Kim and I, all designed to get us to quit. Shane gave it all away with his comment to me, quote, "You need to get away from Kim," unquote. These people are not very bright, and both Kim and I have seen and heard their bullshit many times before. Shane was also the direct cause of me losing my girlfriend Chloe, although she doesn't help herself too much and was not entirely guilt-free either. Not once did he do it, but twice, along with his fellow supporter Marilee Niatane. And yet, despite that, I still helped him when he was struggling. I sent him a practically brand new laptop and also $200 when he was out of work for food. Since that day, Shane has never messaged me once in 15 months until this week. I guess gratitude is not one of his qualities either. Yet again, the case of making allegations, and yet again provides no details of proof to support said allegations. If you make allegations, the burden of proof is on the part of the person making the allegations to provide the proof of their statements, and none was forthcoming. Everyone who read that interchange between him and Kim, it's like the interchange between Kim and Anna von Reitz. Not one question did Shane answer, and neither did Anna von Reitz. Why? Because they're lying, both of them. One's Black Sun, one's Rothschild. Anyone can make a statement, but if you're going to make allegations, one would expect people to have proof. No, that's not how it works in their world. And the saddest part is Shane has gone so low as to support and join a pedophile group, which we referenced earlier, when he himself suffered so much of that abuse as a child. But apparently now it's okay to support pedophiles when it suits an agenda. Shane doesn't like Kim. He was real nasty to her back in 2015-16 time. Real nasty. And this was despite him saying to me that he had vetted her 3 times before the People's Club started. Despite also signing up as a director of the fledgling TPC as well. But then Shane, for no apparent reason, decided he had lied about vetting Kim and that the People's Club was fake, whatever that means. Then suddenly, in summer of 2016, Kim was suddenly the biatch from hell, according to Shane, and he talked Chloe into that bullshit as well, and she left me over it. History always repeats, and it did. Despite what Chloe did, I decided last year to help her again. It is what I do. Help people. And some may think that I was stupid for helping her. No, it's not. Helping people is the right thing to do. Forgiveness is the right thing to do. But Shane got involved with Chloe again recently and has now ended that partnership and my help of and for Chloe again. Just when she was doing rather well. That shit has tipped her upside down again. The problem is not helping people. The problem is the people you help turning nasty. It's not my problem. It is their problem. They are what they are. Every person who has ever been removed from the THI group, which generally involves a 4-person vote on whether members should be removed. Not just one of us. And the general rule is all members misbehave and get several warnings to improve before a vote is taken. All the admins will tell you the same thing. Go and ask them. This has always been the case. So all those ex-THI in the Team Pedo group failed to control their own poor behaviour and were nasty to other members before being removed. The evidence of their continued poor behaviour is there for all to see in that group. The ethos of me and my admins go by, or try to go by, is we don't go looking for issues, we manage them when they arrive. That's what we abide by. Although some people are flagged as potential issues long before it happens, and they duly provide the evidence of such. Shane says, like he has some authority, that the trust is fake. Fine, that's his opinion. But is it? But like his pedo friends, provides no proof to support his claims that it is fake. Shane, who is a Rothschild, which he himself has stated a few times on shows, but what I knew back in 2014 following chats with him and his revealing of who and what he was, Shane is also a Draco. A reptilian. He is related to Anu, Enki, Enlil and Marduk. Ain't that right, Enkidnu? Same family line, all his words, not mine. And yet, despite knowing that, I still worked on a plan with him to try and make peace between the two species for the future. I thought it would be of tremendous value until Shane shape-shifted metaphorically and brought out all the worst traits of his brethren. But apparently Rothschilds don't talk to each other, and Shane appears totally out of the loop, or maybe he's in the loop. A 4-year loop given his comments this week. And one wonders at times at this point if it is Shane at all, and not some agency-based goon. So the trust in Kim is fake, says Shane. Any proof? It's fake, so no proof then. When asked to explain why the third lead Rothschild asked Kim for funds in November, we got crickets. Why would a Rothschild ask for funds from an alleged, according to Shane, a homeless person with no money? Does that make any sense? And if you're going to make a statement she is allegedly homeless with no money, please explain how you can turn around and say she is scamming people. Again, does that make any sense? And why did the lead Rothschild say to Kim it would be better, quote, if you hand over the trust back to us and you quit? And that was just last week. But according to Mr. I am the authority figure on this, Shane Rothschilds, it's all fake. And he clearly has no clue of anything that is going on, and someone needs to tell him it's the year 2020 now, not 2016. His relevance is not what it was. He hops in and out of the alt media like some high school dropout. Comes back, talks shit, and expects people to believe him because he is the great Shane Bales, Sadore, Rothschilds. And because he didn't get his own way and was asked for him to provide proof, he then gets nasty. and he stated 4 times to me he was going to do physical damage to me and offering me to fight and threaten me. I'm sorry, Shane, I don't do violence. And I certainly don't wish to engage with someone who has clearly lost their mental faculties. I waited 4 years for Shane, for the public to see your true colours. Now they do. May your Lord, God and King bless you the way you bless others. The point is, in all of this, is Shane jumps in and out of the alt media to cause disruption at the request of his handlers. That's not a slight, that is a fact. He did support me in the outing of the antics of Corey Good and David Wilcock, and I thank him for that. And also that groundbreaking show we did together in September of 2015. It changed things dramatically after that show. But there is a darker side to Shane, that people let his calming voice into seducing you into his realm and darkness. And it hides a bitter and twisted mindset that he has not addressed, of what his own people, and I'll repeat that again, of what his own people did to him as a child and onward. I pulled back from Shane when he went neo on me. And you've heard me mention the quote, I want to build millions of neos, not the one or be the one. That came from an interaction with Shane in October of 2016. Shane claims Kim is making fantastical claims and she has no proof. Well, lots of proof has been delivered in this show. Lots of it. But to a degree, that is correct. And why I've just said that, I will reveal later. But proof is a two-way street, not a one-way cul-de-sac. So let's look at some of his claims. He is the son of Anu. He claims he trained President Putin when he was 15. Claims he was next in line to become the planetary being Saturn, aka Setan, aka Satan. Claims to have spoken to the giants. Claims to have spoken to the real elders, who he stated are 70 to 130,000 years old. Claims to go out of body for months on end. Claims to have been working on and with entities on the new earth. Claims to have worked with the parents. All extraordinary claims, are they not? Some of which I may or may not believe. I may believe all of them. But that is not the point here. Where is his proof of all these claims? So I challenge him to provide proof of all his claims in the same way he and his handlers are requesting from Kim and myself. It's only fair, is it not? So I ask you all, go and message Shane to provide his proof of all the above claims. Ask him, is he a Rothschild? Ask him, is he a Draco? Ask him what happened with Stuart Swerdlow. Ask him why he lures and seduces in Chloe Kirker and Kelly Frog, and then when they have their hopes raised, he crushed and dismissed both of them. Ask him what he did to his so-called friend, Natasha Arthurs. Ask him why he was in and working with Corey Goode and David Wilcock under the pseudonym of Harry. They dropped him, and the real reason why he turned on them, because he was cut out of the money pit they were creating. Ask him why he was involved with Cassandra, who, like him and his ilk, are dismissive of humans. Go and ask him. People come to me and ask questions, and if I can answer them, I will. If I can't, I won't. Go and ask Shane all that. Because yes, he is a Rothschild. Yes, he is a Draco. Ask him about Stuart Swerdlow. Ask him what he did to Chloe and Kelly Frog. And ask him what he did to his so-called best friend, Natasha Arthurs. Shitbag. Calling Kim, me, the TPC and my Patreon a scam, for those new. I did not create my Patreon funding page. The members requested it themselves. And the reason being is I didn't want personal gain for what I'm doing. I wanted to set the example of being different. But threats to my life and my partner absconding due to mind control by others, of which Shane was central to that, I realised it could help me be more involved than doing my day job at the time and also working for the trust. And I want to thank all of you for that, for all your contributions, all of which are voluntary. Unlike Madeline Niatane, I've never demanded money from anyone. I think most members would say who have contributed the varying amounts they have given me, although one or two have more than given me extraordinary sums which have helped me financially. You know who you are, and I am eternally grateful. I give my time freely, too freely, those close to me have said, but I do it so everyone can learn and improve themselves, not for financial gain. To date, I'm the only person who's engaged Kim and not asked her for money. It's not how I work. And this is what grates on these people. My example set with their comparative mindset makes them feel lesser, when our show is about elevating the all, including them, I might add. Recently, I've been accused of sleeping with several people in the group, including Kim, and having love connections to a few others. But that is my private life. What difference does it make to you? Why is it even discussed? Is it not more drama and resembles the sleeper people? If I've slept with all of them, what difference does that make to what we're doing here? Is it your business? What if I asked who you sleep with? Would you like that level of prying into your personal life? But this is what you have to put up with. So we're going to go into another phase of this. What is proof? In this world of fakery, there is no defining proof anymore. And that's a fact. Even with elements of my own show, how can proof be garnered on certain aspects of it? And it comes down to your own personal experiences. My truth may not be yours. Your truth may not be mine. Pictures, paintings, artifacts, documents, false flag movies can all be staged now to look real. The classic example is 9/11 and 2 planes bringing down 2 buildings that were designed to withstand planes hitting them. Everything now can be faked. Like Hillary Clinton, the woman of 1,000 faces, but people believe that is Hillary, do they not? Remember the CNN live interview and the reporter in Baghdad, I think it was, when proven the interviewer and the interviewee were both in an American car park. Oops. Or Cooper Anderson and the green screen tactic with the alleged victim of the Sandy Hook incident. It's all fakery, and everything can be faked. So there is actually no proof anymore in real terms. Kim can produce a load of documents. Does that make it real? I've seen them all. I know what's real and what's not. But people believe being the operative word. It has lie in the middle of it. It's not about what you believe and everything about what you feel. The mind can be manipulated. Your inner self can't when truly mastered. 1,700 ranging to 3,000 people have died from a virus recently, the media tells us. Have they shown actual proof to support those figures? No. But how many people have asked them to provide proof to support their claims? If only the media, along with the agency and government officials, were held to the same level of transparency and question myself, Kim and THI were held to, then this world would be a much better place. This host and show gives you transparency, but for some people, they don't want transparency. They wish to destroy people based on the lie. To people with agendas, truth doesn't matter. Truth is the light, and they cannot handle the light. A bit like cockroaches, is it not? What believe really means is you cannot be bothered investigating yourself, and chose to be handed a script for you to follow. That is not believing or knowing in anything. That is a machine accepting data input. Are you a man or are you a machine? You have as an inner technology a proof and a truth gadget inside of you all. It's called intuition. If your intuition feels I'm not right for you, walk away. Why waste more of your energy on it? Why spend all day turning nasty on me or anyone else for that matter? Why are you turning yourself into the hate glass of water experiment? Because if you're being nasty with someone else, regardless of what they may or may not have done to you, you have become that ugly molecular structure in Dr. Emoto's experiment. You may think you are getting back or revenge on someone else, but actually you are destroying yourself, not your target or enemy. That's how it works. We are 60 to 85% water. It's symbiotic and it's also symbolic. Why would you do that to yourself? So the point is, what constitutes proof? Kim can show certain documents, like the control system, and some of you have seen the sovereignty letter to Trump. But what does that prove? Because if people choose to have an agenda, there is never enough proof can be given to people like them. I show all the figures for the People's Club. It is posted publicly, and yet people still say, despite public available records, that either both Kim and I are scamming it. A massive scam that over just over 3.5 years, that initially collected $8,000, which all went to setting up the People's Club. We saved $7,000 in fees because in a small part I did some of the filings and paperwork, and so did Kim. But the bulk of the money saved was actually done by Chloe. She did the bulk of that paperwork and filing, which saved us $7,000. So in 2017 we collected 5,500 in donations. 2018 a similar amount. 2019 it was just over 7,000. Out of that, $2,500 to $3,000 a year goes on fees to keep it operating, and also the radio show costs, which was approved by the members. So $25,000 collected in donations over a 4-year period, ignoring the fact that all the fees, which was $16,000, which leaves $9,000 over 4 years. Wow. What a massive payout I'm getting for running a so-called scam. $9,000 over 4 years. Ooh. But many of you know who have received help from that $9,000 over 4 years, including Shane the Ruined and Madeline. That's Madeline. I demand $6,000 off my cult members or I throw them out near Tane. So with my massive $9,000 scam money over 4 years, I helped both of them. Kept one person in a home, fixed some people's cars, supported a medical emergency, supported someone who ran out of gas and had no money to get home, paid someone's cable bill, and helped a few others who had lost their jobs, all out of the $9,000 I am alleged to have scammed over 4 years. So you see, showing proof makes not a blind bit of difference, does it? None of the 6 directors of the People's Club have received a single cent, apart from one, but not as a director, including the 3 that are no longer one of the directors, one of which, incidentally, was Shane the Ruined. Claims he saw the light, like Madeline, former Sisterhood of the Rose out of the Sirius star system. Neither of those 2 would know what the light was if it smacked them between the eyes, as both are as dark as they come. But if people cannot garner my intentions and integrity from over 300 shows at this point, and believe anything a Rothschild's Draco walk-in who has agency-based handlers telling them what to do and say. And those people who have or can leave our group with my blessing. It is not that they don't trust me. The reality is they don't trust themselves. You have made your choice, and you are not ready or the right standing of person required for doing what we are doing going forward. One of their group, the pedo group, recently asked, what is alignment? Oh dear. Alignment is about being in balance with yourself, gaining a mastery over yourself, being in tune with yourself, recognising your own shortfalls and also triggers, and maintaining your 45-55 in balance with yourself and others. So in essence, alignment is being in balance with you, those around you and nature, a symbiotic dance of consideration for all others outside of yourself. But the great question is why anyone would have to ask, what is alignment? The fact that you have to ask speaks loudly to you that you are not in alignment with yourself, never mind others. Shady by name and nature, it seems. Next piece. It is said that most people fall for at least one or several of these sins, and overcoming them leads to true enlightenment. The 7 deadly sins. Now, lust is a strong passion or longing, especially for sexual desires. The antidote to that is chastity or self-control cures lust by controlling passion and leveraging that energy for the good of others. Gluttony is an excessive and ongoing eating of food or drink. That doesn't just apply to them. Temperance cures gluttony by implanting the desire to be healthy, therefore making one fit to serve others. Greed is an excessive pursuit of material goods. Charity cures greed by putting the desire to help others above storing up treasures for oneself. Sloth is an excessive laziness or the failure to act and utilise one's talents. Diligence or zeal cures slothfulness by placing the interest of others above a life of ease and relaxation. Wrath is a strong anger and hate towards another person. Patience cures wrath by one first understanding the needs and desires of others before acting or speaking. Envy is the intense desire to have an item that someone else possesses. This is the greatest sin currently going on in the alt media. Pure envy. In particular, spiritual envy. Kindness cures envy by placing the desire to help others above the need to supersede them. Pride is an excessive view of oneself without regards for others. Pride's like ego. Humility cures pride by removing one's ego and boastfulness, therefore allowing the attitude of service. So as you see, the antidotes for the 7 deadly sins, every single one of them was about helping others. And this is what THI stands for. Avoiding the old ways, via either the 7 deadly sins or the 5 or 6 hooks they try to lure us in with. And I'm pleased that so many of our members have managed to overcome that, and it makes me proud. Hi all, and welcome back to the final portion of tonight's show. THI's done a lot that makes me feel proud. So many people have improved their lives around the world, overcome addictions of various kinds, overcome illnesses of various kinds that said couldn't be fixed. People have adjusted their way of being and become better people, all because of the connection to THI. That's not something these betrayers of darkness can ever say, or be for that matter. It's those type of people and entities like Shane, who have ruined humanity for thousands of years. That reign of terror is very close to an end. And we will carry on working towards the betterment of humanity. But it requires all people to come together, helping and supporting each other. It is a moral obligation you all have, regardless of whether you like me or THI. Arguing over every single fear-based point within your state or country groups. But if you can't look after or follow the few guidelines within a Facebook or MeWe page, how are you going to run a TPC organisation with funding? You can't and you won't. The funds will be given to those who are ready. And sadly some are not. Petty squabbling, people leaving the groups over who is more important than others, people refusing to come in and help them, and people refusing others to come in and help them, are all examples of not being ready for the funds. And it's your loss, not mine, in that situation. But as a reminder, you are also failing all the people in your own state or country. That's who you are representing. You are representing your whole state or country. Step up to the responsibility that entails. It requires a commitment to yourself and to others. It requires you doing your best, and it requires you supporting each other at all times. I don't want to hear anymore, I don't like this person, or I don't trust that one. I don't want to hear it. Step up and help. Darkness comes in many forms and pervades in people who allow it. It is always testing you, and any sign of weakness, and in it gets. We have people who have left the group this week. I can do hundreds of shows, and this is great, and or that is fantastic, Thomas. Then one comment from me they don't agree with, and off they go, and suddenly I'm some sort of demon from hell. Or one comment from the darkness, and it's all off. But I wonder, do these people live their lives under such pressures, where every word or interactions is dissected, diced and pureed? Do they hold themselves as accountable as they hold me or others? For those who have left, you should be ashamed of yourselves for allowing darkness or agenda-driven idiots to sway you. Not me. You from your path. I did warn this would all unfold, and for you all to stay calm, in balance, and support each other. People who hide are operating from the shadows, which is not being of the light. Beacons, which is a sign of your own progress, have to be switched on and shown for all to see. Are you up for the challenge? In what is the greatest period in history for humans for at least 110,000 years. Are you up for the challenge? A few years ago, now back in 2015, I did the faction show to get people to really understand the various groups of dark forces operating within our midst, and to show that the group known as the Illuminati no longer existed and has splintered into factions. The 5 factions were the Asian, Nazi, Jesuit, Jewish Hebrew, which encompasses 2. There are some German Nazis and there are Jewish Nazis, and the secret society groups. But with the work done that is connected to the trust in this show, those 5 factions are now really down to just 2. The Rothschilds and the Black Sun have basically swallowed the 5 factions. Most, if not all, of the main alt media shows or blogs are faction based. Some people may not believe this statement now, but over time, if it hasn't already revealed itself to you, it will. There are only 3 groups now vying for the lead role for this planet. The Rothschilds and the Black Sun are vying for power and control over us and a continuation of the old system. The 3rd group is Kim, myself, and the Trust fighting on behalf of the people on that level of operating. That is where we are at now. One group fighting for your benefit, having shredded their top order people, shredded their parents, shredded their covens, and reduced the collective Illuminati to 5 factions. We have shredded their destroyer, their prince, their lord, and their king. Shredded their 5 factions into 2 who are fighting each other. And for the first time in many thousands of years, we, the people, are represented at the highest table and have an increasing chance of prevailing. Are you up for the challenge? They are reduced now to sending pedophiles, criminals and witches in alignment with Rothschild's puppet to disrupt you and us. That Rothschild is so far in the loops in regards to what is in the now, it's not funny. As he found out for himself over the weekend. Oops. I bet that hurt Shane. Hearing that truth. Oops again. That, in and of itself, is an amazing victory. given all the sorcery, mind control and various other tools and entities to attack us in the past. They have lost the narrative badly on all levels, and they are trying to create a new one based predictably on lies. Only their lies and twisted agendas do not work like the past. And as I always say, time always tells. The only tool those clans have left now is keeping you all divided. Which place do you stand? United we stand, or divided we fall. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.